Hi, welcome to this episode of Happy Today podcast. My name is Sami. I'm the CEO of HappySignals, and I'm today joined by good friend Damien Fenwick from Fujitsu. Damien is an expert and experienced service manager from Fujitsu, and he has been now, during the last few years, been building up a experience management practice for Fujitsu. We have been having a lot of discussions with him during the past about this area, and really happy to have you in our podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Sami.
So, as said, you are really an experienced guy in the industry, but you have been also. I have also felt that you are really keen in experience. So, what makes you so experience driven, and why you love it so much?
Well, thanks for having me today, Sami. So, being a service delivery manager for many years, one of the things that we've always looked at is how we're providing a service to a customer. And sometimes that was skewed by us looking at the SLAs, looking at the screen. So that means, well, we're delivering to service. That means that we're doing a good job. And underlying, you can see that end users are constantly not happy with the service, or not constantly happy, but there is a shift where we're seeing one thing and the users are seeing a different thing. Yeah. So understanding how users actually feel about the service that we deliver, that allows us to put the customer at the heart of how we deliver service and how we can improve it. And that's what we. Yeah.
I think we have had those discussions quite often. That is the traditional SLAs are pushing you in a working, or have been pushing you in a working in a way that you have at some point understood that there is a conflict maybe with the kind of the experience level, some experience of your customers and users. I think has that been how frustrating for you to be working in that situation?
It is frustrating when you have a look at the so looking at this when you're surveying our end users. There was very little response because if you're yes, you'll look to see what the negative responses have been, and you will do your best to try and resolve their issues. But sometimes you'll find that there's a tendency to look at who's shouting loudest and go and fix that issue, and then just fix that issue. However, just because that one person has shouted doesn't mean that there's not other people that are affected by that same issue. So understanding what impact any services, processes that we may implement, understanding what is happening there and what impact it's having to our customers. Sometimes we don't always see that. So understanding that does require the users to tell us what is happening. But when we do get that information, we can support our customers better.
Now, Damien, when you have been working in the industry for some time, if you look backwards from now, what are the biggest changes during the, let's say, 5 to 10 years from now? Now it's the experiences thing maybe coming now quite a big, but before that, what has been kind of making a bigger changes in your role and how you feel?
The things that are making bigger changes in my role is we are, as I said earlier, we are putting the customers is at the heart. We're looking to see how we can evolve with our customers. Understanding what their challenges are, and with the way that we're able to survey the users now. So we're always given that opportunity for the user to provide us feedback. So instead of just saying, well, we'll only survey maybe 10, 15% or 35% of that user base, we're surveying after every single incident or every single request. And with that, we have seen a huge spike in the responses, which obviously gives us a lot more data to look through. And using HappySignals, new tool, it's really helped us understand where the burning issues are. Yeah. So even though we have users reporting, say that they've got an average of 9 and 10s being scored, Usually that would be lost in the noise of we're delivering against the SLA. But what it actually shows is we can actually identify where there's not necessarily a happiness or a good user experience with certain services or products that we're providing. And with this higher volume of responses, it gives us a really good indication of what the user experience is. And what we found ourselves when we're looking at that user experience, the responses, when we're looking at those, we identify that maybe there's a process that we brought in, and because it's helped us, what we believe is delivering service better for the customer. From the end user's perspective, the service has gone downhill because of maybe lack of contact or being asked the same question multiple times. And when you're looking at these top trending type of issues and you're identifying where in a process things have gone wrong, internally you could be working with other resolver groups and you work closer with them because you go, well, wait a minute, we've not got a good experience here. So what we can see is what we need to improve, whether that be process, maybe even the minimum data set that we're capturing, or even is the technical knowledge that we have, correct? Is it helping us provide that first time fix? So what we find with the higher volume of information, it allows us to target the key areas that are causing the issue.
Yeah, and I think that might have also changed the kind of how you work together with your customers. When having more data, you have common understanding, or do you feel that the kind of cooperation has changed in those cases when you are using experience management?
When we're looking at experience management and looking into in greater detail, rather than just that who shouted loudest, or what complaint are we dealing with because of who raised the call. When we're looking at the higher volume of data and looking at the issues that are being raised, what we end up finding is we're able to put corrective measures in quickly, and we see a quick response from that user saying, "Hey, the service has got much better," and it's because of the tweaks that we've applied. But that's only the tweaks have been applied because we've done our analysis. We've looked at how we should be providing a better service. But then from that learnings, we also look at, well, we've got a lesson to be learned here. We need to look at what's happened and see if that similar issue is happening across other customers. Because we are an we are an MSP. We do provide services to multiple different customers, and identifying where we have built in a process or a certain way of working, identifying that and changing it for one customer. And if we change it for others, that means that we've not just made maybe 100 customers, 100 end users happy. We've made thousands of users happy.
Yeah. So learning from your kind of total customer base and their end users and being able to kind of implement those changes to benefit them all. I think that's a really good approach, because I think if they're related to processes, then that's definitely something that is helping to develop the services. How about any good success stories that you could be able to share? Of course, I understand you cannot name the customers, but
so
anyway.
Good success stories. So we have one of the customers, a longest standing customer with HappySignals, using the HappySignals tool. When we started to receive feedback, it was very evident very quickly that were problems with certain suppliers, or not problems with the suppliers, but the way that we were managing our incidents and handing things over to those suppliers. One of the greatest successes was we were seeing that the negativity from the end users about that experience was scoring -10. It was really low. It was the users were not happy. And you could sense that. You could sense the frustration from the user when they phoned about that particular issue. And you could sense the frustration from maybe even the agents that were handling those calls. When we did a bit of a deep dive into that, because it was the most evident problem that we had, we started to recognize, and it's kind of things that I've mentioned already, we started to recognize where there was a breakdown, so where we would pick up the call, we would hand it over. And when we did, we had a minimum data set that we would capture, but that minimum data set didn't capture everything that we needed, which ended up creating repeat calls. So the reassignment count of those tickets were huge. So when you look at the reassignment and you look to see how many times that call has been passed from pillar to post from the customer's, the end user's perspective, when you start to look at that, we start to see that, okay, well, the knowledge wasn't the best. And maybe the process that we were following, it drove tickets to be closed when they shouldn't have been closed because of the way that tickets were being worded. Please reinstall this app. They reinstall the app. They didn't know what the full issue was. So we really deep dived that, and we've seen the score go from, as I say, -10, and it went up to +80. So that was an average of 9s and 10s being scored. So you've seen a huge spike within just a couple of weeks of having those calls with the vendor, having the calls with our resolver groups internally, and improving the way that the tickets were going to be handled. And we actually improved the knowledge base so that we had more of a opportunity to provide a first-time fix. Now, that customer, when we had our user experience call planned, she said herself that it was the most favorite call that she was looking forward to because she could see change. She could see we were doing things. The customer was saying one thing and we did. So you said we did kind of scenario. And she really looked forward to our calls because she could see all that positive change and drive in the right direction.
Yeah. That sounds kind of a good story when you kind of you had the data and then you start to find kind of the focus areas, because I don't think there is a silver bullet that in any case can develop the whole experience of every contact. You just have to start to understand what are the real areas that are working in some context with some customer. They might be the same with multiple customers, but sometimes it really the whole ecosystem of the service management with different partners, different layers. But then you find those kind of areas that, okay, when we look at the averages, we are okay, but there are certain areas which are not even near okay, that were just hidden if looking only average scores, and maybe even hidden if you're looking at the traditional SLAs. Because yes, might be that even in this case, you answer the phone in 2 minutes and whatever. I hate the traditional SLAs, but it's the thing that it's the common understanding together with the customer. I think that is the very, very key of being successful. But now in your case, when doing this enormous change, I would say it's enormous change from SLAs to XLAs, when you are in an organization like Fujitsu, who has hundreds and thousands of people working in the service management area and service desks. So very hard question for you, but what has been the most challenging thing to do?
One of the most challenging things when you're looking at that SLA and trying to change to an XLA, or trying to change that in that direction, you need to understand what the users are saying. And one of the biggest challenges is getting that feedback, getting the response and getting a true feeling and understanding of how those users are perceiving the service that's been received. Because they don't know if it's Fujitsu. They don't know if it's another vendor. All they see is a service desk, and that service desk is there to fix it. So with the tool, a tool will just be a tool at the end of the day. It's what information we get out of it and what we do with it really counts. So looking at this whole process, this whole journey we've been on, with trying to improve our response rates, trying to improve the way we deliver our user experience. What we've now developed within Fujitsu is we do have specific roles that are user experience leads, and we are also going down this journey of building a user experience coaching within the organization. So we're developing that and making sure that we can look to see how we shift to that user XLAs rather than the SLA culture. So it's been interesting. The key thing was getting the information, getting the true feeling of the end users. Now we're getting that. Now we're starting to get some really good feedback, both from the customer, but we're also doing internal questionnaires. We're also doing internal audits. We're looking at delivery excellence standards. So we're driving the business in that direction where we're trying to improve the user experience and try and adopt the XLAs across the organization. So it's we needed to get to a point where we could start understanding what the user's perception was, rather than just hearing it in maybe a monthly, quarterly, or annual service review. From the CEO or somebody like that. Although that's important feedback that we need to listen to, the users will tell us a different story. And the volume of feedback that we are getting just now with those customers that are using HappySignals, and with the other customers we're working closely with to look to see how we improve that customer and user experience, we're starting to see some good things coming out of that, and it's helping us learn a lot about how we approach our XLAs.
Yeah, I think that kind of a success stories that you just shared are needed in the change, because it's we have been so long time working with SLAs, which is they are fact based. Mm-hmm. How long the ticket is open, how fast we did something, how much was the ticket handled by, how many tickets we resolved, and so on. Perception of end users is totally different thing, and starting to trust that and believe that both from in your organization, but the same thing with the customers, and when working with huge customers, how do you feel? Has it changed? How much has it changed? Because I believe that what the customers are asking from you, they are sometimes nowadays already asking XLAs, but I think sometimes you are trying to make them think about the XLAs rather than SLAs. So how do you feel? Is it 50-50 nowadays for who is driving XLAs, customers or you?
That's a really good question, and a wee bit challenging as well, Sami, because one of the things that through my years of being a service manager, one of the things that I've always seen, well, not always, sometimes seen, is where if we had a user experience or a survey had been responded to, and we sat down in our service meeting and we says, well, this is what this user's saying. And the first question would be, okay, well, did you deliver to SLA? Yeah, okay, well, they'll just have to deal with it. It's that kind of scenario. Yeah. But there's over the past few years, I've seen a real change. They're putting the end users at the forefront of the conversations and saying, well, how can we improve that? How can we change that experience? So it's getting everybody thinking about, well, if the user's experience is a lot more positive and a lot more successful, and hopefully we learn from that, then what that means is that you will have the customer will have a happy workforce.
Yeah.
But not just that, they'll have a happy workforce, but then they're going to be happy with the services that we provide, because we're continually improving it. So there has been a culture change, and it's changing. As far as I'm concerned, it's changing rapidly, where everybody's putting the user at the forefront of the conversations. It's okay, how can we improve that user experience?
Yeah. I think that is of course, we are part of the so-called movement to that direction. Mm-hmm. So trying to help organizations to really make the jump, or really trust the experience. And I think that's the cultural changes. Even though there is now a lot of push in the market to that direction, still like the cultural change there is a challenge for people who have been so familiar with the old way of working. Mm-hmm. And then nowadays, even though I said in this discussion that I hate SLAs, that's maybe a black and white thinking, but mm-hmm. I do think that we need them. But the first step for me is always to, as you told that success story, we have to identify what is from the perspective of the end users. Mm-hmm. When we together understand that we have a common focus, okay, we have to fix that one. And then you need the traditional SLA behind it to understand what is going wrong. Like reassignment count that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. it is then helping you kind of, okay, if we can get this right, then hopefully that will also help the customer to be more satisfied.
Mm-hmm. And with SLAs, they do have their place. They do. We do need to have SLAs in certain areas, but that's to give us a sense of how we are actually delivering the services that we're contracted to deliver. But when you start seeing that sea of green, and because you're delivering good customer experience, you will only get there if you have the right tooling, right question styles, to get a true representation of how the user's feeling. And then once you've improved and you are getting that average 8s and 9s, then you do need to start looking at things like lost time, and then that's improving the service even further, by looking at all these different areas.
All right, but now when we have been now talking mainly about what has happened and how you feel exactly now, but what about the future? You see this XLA thing growing, but what are your plans, your personal plans and future plans? What are you going to do?
So for the future, yes, we're striving more and organizing more towards XLA structure. As I said, through this podcast, we are learning on this journey. We're learning with our customers, and learning as an organization how we can continually drive continuous improvement. We need that data. We need to be able to access that data from all different areas. So our future, we were looking at how we operate when we're looking at analytics, how we can look at what good operational health is before it actually becomes an issue with before it becomes an issue with an end user or breaches SLA. We're looking at trending kind of things, and the user experience surveys that are coming in, or the user experience scores that we're having, they really help drive our understanding of what's happening. So we globally, we are looking at how we approach our tooling, how we approach our reporting, and looking at how we can support the rest of the organization and making sure that we're delivering excellence across. So we have many different campaigns running just now. So yeah, the future's looking bright.
There is a lot to do.
A lot to do. But all of the things that we're looking at, and all the again, it is just data. So we need to teach people how to look at that data and make sure that the customer is at the front of their mind. The customer's at the heart of the whole of this operation. So we need to make sure that we can see more of the customer's data, so that we can provide the best improvement, the service improvements in the right areas. So yeah, we're HappySignals, by using that tooling, has helped us look at data in a slightly different way, and it's helping drive how we view data from other parts of the business as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's great to hear. And of course, we work together almost on a weekly basis, so happy to continue that. But hey, now for the listeners, we typically, and also this time, want to say that if somebody wants to contact you, what is the easiest way to send you an email or LinkedIn or whatever?
LinkedIn, you'll be able to find me, and Fujitsu, Damien Fenwick. I'm on LinkedIn. You will see me there if you want to reach out to me through that channel. I'm more than happy to get back to you.
All right. Right. Thank you, Damien, for this discussion, and for the listeners, as we always say, stay happy and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.